When I think of Ebola, I just think of like a couple years ago when there was like that outbreak in like the U.S. and it was like pretty serious and like people were getting it. Everyone was like pretty nervous about it. Um,
So my thoughts about Ebola is, when it first outbroke a couple of years ago, I was just like, wow, like I've never heard of this disease. So then I one day went to go donate my plasma to find out that I couldn't even donate my plasma because they claimed that my country had Ebola, and that because I was from the Democratic Republic of Congo, they were over here talking about like, oh, you cannot donate because we do not know if we can accept your plasma. So then that made me do more research about Ebola, and I just found out it's a really bad disease that's killing people. And it's just, super sad, and to see that my own country has that disease, it just makes me really sad. So
Ebola is a sad, sad case of disease that attacks the body, and I think that there should be a way to solve this large epidemic in the world.
Today, we are going to touch base on the impacts of Ebola and the gene that enables the resistance of this virus.
Ebola is a virus that causes problems with how the blood clots. The virus is known as a hemorrhagic fever virus because the clotting leads to internal bleeding, inflammation, and tissue damage. The Ebola virus was first discovered in 1976 near the Ebola River in what is now the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Ebola is a chronic communicable disease that damages the immune system and organs, which in particular the lung and kidney. In the process of Ebola entering the cell, this figure entails how Ebola infects human cells. To begin, Ebola contains a genetic material called RNA. In this genetic material, it produces new virus particles. But in order to start that process, the virus would need to target a living cell, which would then allow the virus to replicate. As Ebola enters the cell membrane, it takes up the nutrient entryways and takes full control. Once the Ebola virus is in the cell, it then replicates itself. When the virus makes various copies, it weakens the cell. Now the cell has the inability to function properly at this point and will soon lead to death.
Leukocyte antigen gene family provides instructions to form a group of proteins called the HLA complex. This HLA complex helps humans' immune system to distinguish between the body's own proteins from outside or foreign invaders like bacteria or other viruses. Once a human leukocyte antigen detects something foreign, it responds by triggering the infected cell to self-destruct with the help of the MHC class genes. In the HLA gene family, there are certain alleles that can survive the Ebola infection. In a research study of the SEBOV outbreak in Uganda, there were a total of 77 patients infected with the Ebola virus, who were then evaluated. 35 had lived and 42 had died. The scientists further researched the alleles between the patients who have died and the ones who have survived. From the table, you see that in the first 3 sets of alleles, all patients have died. With the next 16 alleles, only some of the patients have died and some have survived. And with the last set of 7 alleles that were found, none of the patients have died. The scientists of this experiment have found that the expression of the B*07 allele was highly associated with survival because it expresses the phenotype that efficiently drives T-cell activation in early infection for the Sudan Ebola virus case. The B*07 allele of the HLA family suggests that this allele may be sufficient to restrict Ebola replication by detecting it quickly and allowing the infected cell to self-destruct. Therefore, people with this specific allele have the possibility to survive the Ebola virus.